Hey y'all, welcome to Living Real Life Outdoors. From turkey tails and trout trails to tall tines and tailwaters, an outdoor audio magazine partist, focusing on hunting, fly fishing, archery, firearms too, interviews and hunting and fishing stories. Men and women of the outdoors are conservationists of the wildlife we pursue. See y'all in the woods and on the streams. Your host, Legends of the Outdoors Board of Directors, Donnie Conway.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. I got Mr. Jeremy Clark, right?
Yes, sir.
And he is the owner of Iron Hill Armory in St. James, Missouri. Jeremy, why don't you kind of fill the people in as to what got you interested in opening up a gun shop?
So I come from a family of mechanics and outdoorsmen, and I used to, when I was a kid, I used to get into my dad's closet and his gun safe without him knowing. I'd snag his firearms and I'd clean them and put them back and repair them and put them back until finally one day he caught on because he had a rifle with a bad stock, and I decided to sand it, stain it, soup it up a little bit, and I put it back. About a week later, my dad said, "You been getting into my stuff?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, I just kind of wanted to clean your stuff, take apart your guns," and you know, and I must have been 13, and so my dad, he said, "Okay, well, you need to ask." I said, "Yes, sir." And then one day he shows up and he's got a Remington 7400 or 742 Woodsmaster, one or the other. And he said, "All right, I bought this, pawn shop, bottom shelf. They said it didn't work, bought it cheap. I want you to fix this. I'm going to sell it. We're going to split the profit." My dad being an entrepreneur by heart, I said, "Okay." So, tore it apart, checked it out. I said, "Okay, here's what we need." He got it. We put it together. He test fired it. He sold it. We split the profit. A couple weeks later, he shows up with another one. So, I spent a couple of years repairing tons of Remington 7400, 742, 760s, all of that type, the old Remingtons. Most notably for 270s and 30-06s, and then the Marlin 60s. You could buy those at a pawn shop back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Every pawn shop was afraid of them because they had a bad reputation, and so you'd buy them just everywhere. So he bought them, and he'd buy them cheap and broken and whatever, and we'd fix them and we'd sell them. So then, I don't know, fast forward, life goes on, and we've got driver licenses and stuff, and that kind of fades away for a little bit. I go to work as a mechanic, and I spent the next lot of years doing that. So one day we had a spare bedroom, and I said, I'd like to get back into it. Started buying more tools and doing more playing. The next thing you know, you're justifying the stuff you buy with, well, if I just do a few of these jobs, I'll pay for this tool I've been wanting, my new toy. And that's a rabbit hole. So the next thing you know, I've got a room full of equipment, and then I've got a basement full of equipment. I've got mills and lathes, and I've got all of these things, and I just accidentally had a client base in a gun shop. So we decided that I got so busy, we decided to rent a little place and make a go of it. So eventually that go got big enough, I quit my other job.
It's gotten big. What now? Have you got as far as to where you can make your own barrels?
Yeah, so I buy them by blanks.
Yeah.
Most of the time you buy one by a blank. You see TV shows and stuff, where these guys are hammer forging out a barrel, making one out of scrap metal and stuff. And yes, no, I've never done that. Never will, because it's just, while it may be really cool, the amount of time and energy and money and resources that would go into that, it would be awesome.
You'd have to charge.
Oh yeah. So that's not feasible. There's companies out there that make barrel blanks. And what they are, essentially, they're just cylinders that are bored and rifled, and you buy it in the bore diameter and the rifling that you want. So I know that if I'm going to be building a .308 Winchester. I'm going to be buying a barrel blank fit for tolerances of a .308 Winchester and a 1 in 10, most notoriously a 1 in 10 twist rate. So I'll buy this 25 or 27 inch tube, and then I'll cut it down to my lengths. I'll contour it, which is the time consuming part because you're removing gobs of material, then chamber it and thread it.
So you do fluting and all that too?
I used to do fluting. I don't so much anymore. It used to be, seemed to me like there was more demand for it years ago. And I promoted it more. I did it more. I thought it was a lot of fun, and so I bought a.
I always thought they kind of look cool.
They do look cool.
But you don't see as much of it anymore.
Not really. Ruger Americans, they've kind of brought that back with their factory spiral fluted barrels, and Mossberg Patriots have their spiral fluted bolts.
Yeah.
And they look neat cosmetically, but that's kind of where it stops.
Wasn't that originally designed as to cool the barrel faster?
So the theory was more surface area to cool the barrel faster. Another theory that some companies promoted was because of weight reduction. So you're removing material off the barrel, which inevitably means you're removing weight.
Yeah.
Now that's kind of a mute point and a bar fighting question to ask whenever you say, does it really work? And you have this handful of people saying it's absolutely a mute point, and the other that swear by it.
Yeah.
But in reality, there's not a lot of material you're removing, so the weight reduction is, in my opinion, the mute point. The other thing, the heat reduction, or heat dissipation. You are increasing the surface area of that barrel, therefore you're giving it more room to dissipate heat,
Yeah.
in theory. In reality, I'm not really sure that it makes much difference, but it looks cool.
It does.
Which comes with a third point.
I remember when they first come out, I thought, man, they were cool.
Yeah.
Of course, when they first come out, they just did the straight flute, and then they started doing the spiral flute.
Spiral fluting comes in with more CNC in the CNC era. CNC is obviously real big now, and it's been really big since, let's call it the 90s. And before that also, but machines were not as capable then. They were bigger then, they were more expensive then. So it wasn't as big of a deal. In the 90s, you see a huge increase of CNC stuff with Haas with their smaller machines, and so then you've seen a big uprise in that. But as CNC went on and more companies bought into it, then it was more feasible to do weird stuff like spiral fluting.
Gotcha.
Before that, it was mostly all done on hand machines. You'd use a radial cutter on a large, like a Bridgeport, 48-inch Bridgeport, and which is what I went and bought just so I could do that. So that was your normal, that was why it was always straight flute. When you get into spiral fluting, then you've got to have some way to index and manipulate the barrel. So then you would have the dividing head, a CNC powered or electronic dividing head. There's another way besides CNC, just again, you don't see it much.
Gotcha.
But with the rise in CNC and the cheapness of CNC, now we have a lot more of that stuff.
Well, you got a pretty nice shop here,
Thank you.
Jeremy.
Thank you.
And now, are you originally from St. James?
Yes, my family's not. One of my brothers and I were both born in Rolla, and then my oldest brother and the rest of my family were from South Iowa, North Missouri. But yeah, I was born and raised down here.
So you went to school here at John F. Foster?
Yep,
What year did you graduate?
2006.
2006. Well, you're kind of pup then.
I would like to still think I'm a young pup, yeah. Every now and then I think of my way, I portray my way, I mention myself as being in some way the young pup, and then of course every now and then I get told that 2006 was a long time ago.
So your dad didn't go to school here?
No.
Okay. So where are they originally from?
So my dad actually went to school in Tarkio, Missouri, a little bitty town that's smaller than Newburgh, Newburgians. My mom was from Rockport. Of course, they moved around a lot.
Up
My mom's
north?
family. Yep.
Northwood?
Yep. Rockport's up in right in the corner in Atchison
Highway
County,
29.
right off 29. Yeah, you stopped there and ate at that restaurant, and I think I commented on your Facebook post. Yeah, I've been there.
It was big, huge
Yeah.
burgers, that place. Golly. And then,
Yep.
then they had the one, my buddy that owns Legends of the Outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had the tender one the first time he went. He said, I ended up having to get a to-go box. I said, my gosh. There's a tender one like that, huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good food. Definitely.
But Rockport, Mound City, Craig, Corning, and then as you go further north, Well, I mean, there's not much more further north you can go. You're right there
Yeah.
next to Nebraska.
To the
You're right below the
river.
Illinois line.
Well, see, he duck hunts with a guy named Fred Ramsey there in Mound City. He has his own radio show out of Kansas City.
No kidding.
Outdoor radio show, yeah. Matter of fact, he just got inducted into the Legends of the Hall of Fame this past August.
No kidding. Well, that's too
Yeah.
cool. Too cool.
But yeah, he's right there in Mound City.
First time I went pheasant hunting was with my dad up there. It was just northeast of Mound City, out in some fields. And my dad said, hey, you know, big, again, avid hunter. Every year that was like, you stopped, life stopped, school stopped, we went hunting and we went snagging. And that was the thing. So every year we did that, and we always enjoyed the extended deer hunt, the antlerless hunt.
Yeah.
They started up in North Missouri before, you know, it worked its way down here. And so we would go do that every year like clockwork. And then later years, they moved it around. They kind of bounced around the time frames and whatnot, but that really screwed with the
Well,
people.
now they've cut CWD completely out
Yeah.
here.
And this
That was
predates.
just, what, a month ago they announced that?
Yeah.
Or 3 weeks ago.
That was mind blowing, but
Yeah, exactly. Here they was gung ho wanting to
Yeah.
slaughter the deer herds, you know, for something that's been around for years.
Yeah.
That they don't really have no control of.
another bar fighting question there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a lot of friends that agreed with it. I just kept my mouth
Yeah.
quiet. I was like, you know, I don't, because, you know, just let nature take its course.
right. I am a big advocate of that. I am, and I've got friends and customers that are with MDC. You know, it's not that I'm afraid of stepping on toes. I'm absolutely happy to speak my opinion when asked. But unfortunately, not many people ask my opinion on that, and I'm no scientist. I'm here, you know, I just want to be here to nothing more than to speak the truth. So and that means you just keep your mouth shut a lot.
Now, what is some of your main name brand stuff? I see you carry Henry.
We carry, we carry all the popular brands. Of course, you can order about anything, but with size and capital being a constraint, I'm obviously not the size or the working capital of a Walmart. So I focus on what, and I'll be honest, I'm biased. So whenever I started stocking things, when I first got into this, it was more of an accident. One day I saved up $1,200. And I told my wife, I said, you know, we do some gun shows with Ralphie, used to be Smoky Acres Trading Company. Ralphie's a good family friend of mine, and he kept after us about doing gun shows. And so one day I said, you know what, let's do some gun shows. And so that was my wife and I's getaway. Miranda and I own this place. So I said to Miranda, let's go do a couple of these gun shows with her. And we had a blast. It was a great getaway, and it's funny because that's our couples retreat was gun shows. And so she got into it, and we had a great time by ourselves without the little ones and stuff. We loved them, but it was nice to be able to get away and do something different. Loved it so much, I saved up, I had $1,200, and I said, here's where we start. I'm gonna buy $1,200 worth of inventory. And that's how this began. I bought $1,200 worth of common Missouri used rifles and a couple of handguns. And then now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm biased, so what I did was I said, you know, I really like lever actions. I really like the classics. And so that's what I stocked. I went whole hog, and we bought like 10, 20 Henrys and whatever lever actions were available at the time. Of course, you know, in the 2000 teens, we had the problems with Remington liquidating Marlin, and so that was a big issue, and there's a lack of availability, which drove up prices on the lever actions. But that's how we kind of started, was with lever actions. And so we've always been loyal to Henry. They've been good to us. We sold lots of them. They've been great to work with for repairs and things.
I've had Marlin. Marlin was always my favorite over Winchester.
Yep.
Because it kicked out the side and
Yep.
not the top.
The side eject was a real big deal between that and availability and price. Marlin always overshadowed Winchester, in my opinion. Again, that's speculative, and somebody will argue. But there's no argument. Side eject is way more convenient. You could just, you could
You
put an
know
optic
what?
on it.
I bought my first Golden Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shoot! I don't know what that's probably been. Well, it was about the year they came out with it. I'm pretty sure. But that was probably the smoothest lever action I'd ever shot. And of course, back then my eyesight was a little better. I popped a fox squirrel at over 40 yards, barking at me in a hickory nut tree.
Yeah.
Right after I bought that rifle, I thought, man, this is a sweet shooting gun. But you know, a lot of things changed when Obama got elected. I sold every gun I had, and then I started buying what I just selected stuff that I wanted.
Yeah.
But you know, for the longest time, even score hunt, I ended up getting a 32 caliber rifle, and I had a 36. But for the longest time for deer season, all I would use is black powder.
Yeah.
I just loved it. But then it got to where I got tired of cleaning it.
There's a lot of maintenance there. I have to admit, that's one of the reasons I never got into
so
it.
when I sold all my guns, that black powders was one of them. So.
Excuse me.
But yeah, I had numerous inline 50 calibers and cap and ball 50s, and then I had a 36 and a 32. I had I bought it. It was that Uberti.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 45 in the Pennsylvania long rifle. Beautiful gun. I gave a pretty penny for that thing.
Hey guys, Jeremy at Iron Hill Armory. Just wanted to take a second to talk about a few things that are a big deal to us here and me personally, and that is suppressors. So, as a lot of you know, almost everyone know, at the beginning of the year there's some big changes coming. And that would be the big beautiful bill, the result of that, with the dropping of the $200 tax stamp. So one of the misconceptions is that we hear a lot is people think that that means no more background checks or Form 4s, none of the complicated stuff, the scary stuff that people talk about, the fingerprints and all of that good stuff. That's false. All of that still remains in for now. Always, of course, everything's always subject to change, but it's rarely for the better. But the $200 is going away. So what that means for you is, if you decide you want a suppressor, the time is now. With all of the options we have available, the problem that we're going to start seeing is lack of availability, because now, due to this, demand is going to greatly increase. And with great increased demand means supply is going to delinquish, or going to evaporate, and we're going to have some issues there. So just be careful, do your research, ask questions, and look for what you really want. There is a lot of work involved, or a little bit with the Form 4, so there's not a great resale value, although that will change tremendously with the drop of the $200 tax stamp, because now that means that you can legally sell one to somebody else and Form 4 it to them, and it doesn't cost an additional $200. So that's going to help with the resale value if you buy one and you decide you don't really like it, wasn't what you thought it was, and you want to buy another one. So that being said, a suppressor. It's not all Hollywood cracks it up to be. They're not all going to turn everything into dead silent firearms, so it's all about expectations, and you need to know what some of the differences are. So if you're not really familiar with them, then we'll just start out with what everybody should want, need, have, whatever you want to call it. That's a rimfire suppressor. There are so many companies that make 22 and rimfire suppressors. There are so many options nowadays, and they're relatively inexpensive. So you're talking, you can buy a plethora of 22 suppressors for around $300. So with the tax stamp and state taxes, yes, that means you're going to pay around $500–600. But with the tax stamp going away, that means that this little gem right here is going to cost you under $400 out the door. Everything, total, the end. This here is an Aero Precision Tefra. So there are so many options I mentioned. It's hard to say what's the best. You can say the best in many ways. The best because it reduces the amount of decibels. It's hard to reinvent the wheel. There's only so many ways to do it. There's a lot of really good 22 suppressors out there, and they all do a great job. The difference is going to be the best because of weight. You don't want something too heavy. Because of length, you don't want something too long. So just some things to think about with the 22 suppressor. And again, they're all going to be kind of in that price range of around 300-ish. There are some that we sell, and there's some out there that are 400-ish. But that gives you the idea, and it's a ton of fun. You can take your little ones out and get them into shooting without the noise, the scare, the hype. It's like shooting a pellet gun, and then you can focus on what's really important, like range safety and accuracy. So the next thing would be, real quick, AR suppressors. AR suppressors like this Polonium K by Otter Creek Labs. OCL, Otter Creek Labs, is a very popular company. They make very good stuff. They're not breaking the bank prices. They're very reasonable. And they're very popular for a reason. They're meant to be on ARs. That does not mean you can't put them on other things, but They're meant to be an AR suppressor, and what makes them different is because they're built like a battle tank. With an AR, many of you guys are shooting accuracy and numbers. If you're shooting 100 rounds, you're gonna turn some stuff pretty hot. You see YouTube videos, people cooking bacon on suppressors and stuff. That's where ARs and AR suppressors come in. You can't do that with all suppressors, you'll cook them. So AR suppressors for ARs. They are not the best in terms of noise reduction, so don't buy one and then expect to put it on your bolt action 243 Ruger American and get the best results for noise reduction out of it. There are better for noise reduction. And then you have 30 cals, 36 cal, 46 cal for your lever action Henrys that we love so much. The Silencer Co. 46 is a great one. The Yankee Hill R45 is a great one. We're a big fan of the 46 cal cans because we sell so many Henry Model X's and 357, 4570, 45. You wouldn't believe how much fun they are and how quiet they are, even in the 4570. It's amazing. And then lastly, threaded barrels. Don't forget to thread your barrel. We can thread a barrel here. They're $100. We can outfit you with a factory threaded barrel and or conversion. So just something to think about. Make sure you're prepared.
Jeremy, I'm gonna, guys, welcome back to the show. My technical difficulty here. Jeremy, say if I want to buy a 6.5 Creedmoor can, I guess can, or silencer, however you want.
Yeah, so the technical
Is there another name for them?
suppressor, silencer, can. Most people in the gun world call them, refer to the can. I do, and I don't even know when or why that happened. Just one day when you're talking to everybody, it's universal. Everybody knows what you mean with your gun buddies, and I don't know. Cans maybe just easier to say. I'm not sure, but it's fun for sure.
So if I want to buy a 6.5, your recommendation would, now you were talking earlier about possibly $1,000 for a good one.
Yep.
Now,
So-
if somebody wanted to kind of, if they're on a budget,
Sure, if you're pinching pennies, there's always other options. Again, there's always another option. If somebody says this is the best thing to buy, they don't realize it yet, but they're lying because there's always another best. There's always a better. It's a better in what way? So if you're talking about something being better in terms of budget, then we'll attack that direction. And for the guys that don't really know, and you're looking to get your first suppressor or your second suppressor, and you're just really not sure, that's why we're here to help. It's absolutely, we'll give you whatever answers we can give you, whatever research we can help you with. So, but I like to break things down, and first thing, right off the bat, the most important is your expectations. And you can only meet your expectations if you know what your expectations are. So that being said, then from there we can break it down to what's most important to you. Most important to me is budget. Okay, so what is your budget? Well, we know that Otter Creek Labs, the OCL hydrogen, is going to be about $1,000 suppressor in that neighborhood. They have two
but
options.
that's an awesome suppressor.
But it is an amazing suppressor. Absolutely amazing.
You said that was titanium.
Yep.
So it's super light.
Yep. A lot of your better suppressors are now all titanium or Inconel or 3D printed Inconel, and there's so many options.
So are a lot of them still made in steel, metal?
There are still a lot of them made in stainless steel. Your stainless steel ones are going to be cheaper because they're stainless steel as opposed to these other more expensive precious metals, but they're also going to be heavier. So if you wanted to get into a 30 caliber can or a 6.5 can, that you could save some money.
Carrying around a bull barrel.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be your sacrifice. If we know that your budget, if you say, hey man, $1,000 is just going to be a little too much. Is there a way we can pinch some pennies here? There's nothing wrong with that. No shame whatsoever. I get that 120%. So, just means, okay, what is your budget? Well, if your budget's $500 to $600, there are still good options out there, and we can still help you. Just know that all of your options are for a non-rim fire. All of your options, for the most part, are going to be $500 to $1,300. So if you say $500, $600, that's half the money. I get that. And with January coming the reduction of the $200 tax stamp, you're saving those $200 there. So you have the AAC Jaeger, which is a fixed 30 caliber can. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's a little big and heavy, but it's good. It works. It's rated for up to 300 Win Mag. So it would work on your 6.5. The downside is it is big, it is long, it is heavy. It is a fixed tail cap. So you're talking about the 5/8 by 24 thread pitch where a lot of these have an industry standard on these caps. That 5/8 by 24 cannot be changed out like these can. A lot of companies have went to this standard thread right here, and 1.375. So there's a lot of universal ability. You can buy one of these off our shelf and you can put a this cap, this 1/2 by 28 cap in that hydrogen and stick it on your 22 arc that's presumably going to be threaded in 1/2 by 28. So there's a lot there. With that AAC Jaeger, while it's a, I don't remember, $500 suppressor, it doesn't have that ability. It's only going to be a 5/8.
So now, a lot of these cans these days, well, I'm assuming they always were, but you can take them apart to clean them, right?
No. So a lot of cans you cannot. Some cans you can. Some of them are going to be have a monocore or baffle stack that you can remove to clean and stuff. Excuse me. But a lot of them these days do not. It's kind of like manufacturers and automobiles have taken away the ability to check your transmission fluid in your car, because a lot of the problems that you do see these days are self-induced by customers trying to do good but accidentally creating an issue. So it's kind of the same thing there. With one of these, they operate so hot that it almost makes them more efficient. It's almost, I've heard people use the term self-cleaning. I'm not a big fan of that term, but it almost is. They operate so hot, so efficient.
So it burns all the...
It doesn't leave much behind. If you're not shooting lead projectiles, if you're shooting good jacketed quality ammunition, it doesn't leave too much behind, so you don't have a lot of accumulation. So when you pull this adapter out of this polonium K, this is it. You can't remove the front, you can't remove the baffles. There's your welds for your baffles. This is as much as it gets disassembled, which means if you want to clean it beyond this, then we have a couple of options over here for solvents that you'll dunk them in and soak them, and then you pull them out. You can run a brush through it, but again, there's not much to brush. So you pull them out, you'll rinse them out with hot water, blow them out with a blowgun, and that's it.
That's probably a better way anyway.
It really is. If you go with the traditional baffle
Because
stack.
you're right, people want to start messing with them, they'll end up screwing it up.
Yeah, and it's a thing. You get a lot of carbon inside of one of these. If you get a lot of carbon in here, like this Tefra or the CMMG uses a baffle stack. So if you get a lot of carbon in there, then on a 22, they're still mostly cleanable because 22s are filthy animals. So you need to be able to clean those, but you have to be careful because when you start pulling these things apart, they stack together with very, very precise tolerances. And so when there's carbon inside these tubes, they tend to dislodge or distort. So whenever you go to put it together, if it's out just slightly, if it's not seated properly on these little edges, when you screw the cap on and you just kind of crank it down, you might cock them, which is going to cause clearance issues, and that's how you get baffle
So
stacks.
now, for the 22, can you get it in that style to where you're not messing with all that? Because I would be afraid of cocking that.
Well, again, it's important on a rimfire because they're so dirty, you do need to be able to clean them. So another option, like your Silencer Co. Sparrow or the Gemtech GM22, they're a monocore. So when you unscrew the end of it, instead of having a stack of baffles like this,
Man, you got a bunch of them.
yeah, there's a baffle stack. And people are intimidated by that, as they should be. You need to make sure you pay attention. It's important.
Are those more quiet than the other versus the other?
That is another Fords versus Chevy's question. Every company has, of course, every company is selling their own product. Theirs is the best. And so there are some independent research, independent studies out there, and they kind of go back and forth. Again, it's hard to reinvent the wheel, so you have two primary options for 22s, baffle stacks and monocore. For ease of use, monocore is nice because on a monocore, and I don't even have one here to show you because we've sold almost all of our suppressors in December. We've got 3 or 4 left in this building. It's been an amazing month for sales, but people are worried about what these time delays are going to look like next year. When SOT drops to $0, then it's inevitably, that means that whenever you buy a suppressor in December, these guys are getting 1, 2, 3 day turnaround times to have their suppressor. Well, 2 days is great compared to what it previously was for a year. So now next year, it's the uncertainty. All of this flood of sales of people willing to buy a suppressor for $20, we're expecting crazy wait times. And you know, I've been called fear monger and
But
all kinds of
that'll
things.
eventually start to...
It'll always normalize. Everything does. It will, but I do believe it'll go crazy, of course, for a while.
Yeah.
Which
Especially
created
with that $200 tax.
Yeah. In January, whenever we can start submitting $0 tax stamps, it's
Well, hey, why don't you give everybody a quick rundown of this new suppressor bill and stuff going on?
So the new suppressor bill, part of the big beautiful bill, eliminates the $200 tax stamp. So now we're looking at $0 you're just buying a suppressor as it should be, like every other item on the shelf. You're buying the suppressor, you're paying your state sales taxes on it, so 7-8% or whatever, just like everything else. Now, the ATF still treats them as a firearm, so you still have to do all of the other things. It's not doing away with the Form 4 and your fingerprints and all the other arbitrary things that really are an infringement should be there. It's not doing away with those, but it is doing away with the $200 stamp. So what that means for you is exactly that. You can come in and buy it just like you're buying a gun and ammunition and everything else, and then we still need to do your Form 4, your fingerprints and all of those good things, but you're still out the $200. You're not out the $200. So it's going to be great. Now somebody can buy a 22 can for their 22, which was a $200, $300, $400 can, and not pay the $200 tax stamp, doubling the price of the can. You're not doing that anymore. So this is going to be great. I can't wait.
Still a firearm.
Still considered a firearm.
Without a trigger.
Yeah. Still serialized. Yeah. Part of the government considers this a semi-automatic, an automatic weapon. It's regulated under the NFA. The ATF says it's considered a firearm. The background check says it's an other, like an incomplete firearm is considered an other, receiver's an other. So when you run the background check, you check off other. They don't know what they're doing. Not a clue.
Yeah, when you told me that, I was like, really? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Of course, that don't surprise you.
No.
Not one bit.
There's no surprises anymore then.
Talking about the government.
Yeah, they don't know which direction
Well,
they're
hey, why
going.
don't you give your contact info here?
All right, well, here at Iron Hill Armory, we're at 126 North Jefferson Street in St. James. You can find us there. You can find us online at ironhillarmory.com. You can catch us an email at support@ironhillarmory.com, or you can give us a call. We're here Tuesday through Saturday, 573-261-3269.
Well, listen, Jeremy, I'm going to be interested, like I said, in a 6.5. Now, if I bought one 6.5, is it going to fit my T-cut and my Ruger
Yes.
Precision, or I got to get two?
Nope, so 6.5, the industry standard for a 6.5, 7 mil, pretty much anything larger than 243, and even these days, a 224 caliber as standard is a 5.8.
And that's a 6.5 Creedmoor, not the
Yeah.
PCR or
PRC.
PRC, yeah.
The 6.5 PRC, the 6.5 Creedmoor, the 6.5 Grendel,
They're all the same.
They're all going to be threaded in 5/8 by 24. Now, always do your due diligence and double check. There's always something wonky that could happen. A manufacturer that does something a little different. Maybe it's an older one and they didn't quite standardize it then. Maybe it wasn't a factory threaded barrel and somebody took it somewhere like us and had it threaded. We get, every now and then we get requests for having 243s threaded in half by 28.
Really?
Yep. So you kind of see it both ways because there wasn't really a common 243 that was ever threaded.
Savage 243 bullet.
Yeah, so the nice thing about half by 28 means that you have to have less barrel material. It can be a thinner barrel to be threaded. So if you've got a Savage Axis, your factory pencil barrel, your cheaper guns are all going to be lighter and they're all going to be thinner, which means there's not enough material there to thread properly. And on a half by 28 thread pitch, you only need about, well, the thread itself has an OD of 496 thousandths, plus you need a shoulder to be able to set it on. So you got to make sure that you have at least, 650 thousandths barrel diameter.
All three of my Savage or older models, they're not the Axis. I got the 308, 223, and a 243.
A lot of your older 110s are going to be a heavier barrel profile than your Axis would be. On the Axis, honestly, most of the Axis.
But them still can be threaded though, right?
As long as the material's there, as long as we could mic it and make sure there's enough material there, we can absolutely thread it.
Gotcha.
I mean, we can thread, we do Rigger 1022s and Rigger Mini 14s. Of course, a Mini 14 is a pain, as are AKs and a couple other things, but I've made jigs to check them up on the lathe and kind of.
See, I've got a Patriot Night Train 308, and it was the first gen, which didn't have the muzzle plate. So, and when I was living in a different area, I had Top Gun up by Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
They threaded it and put a muzzle brake on it.
Yep.
Because the second gen came out with the muzzle
Right,
brake.
and they were at 5/8 by 24.
So, and if I got a can, I thought about maybe getting rid of that gun, but man, it's a sweet shooting gun. I don't know if I will.
Right.
For the price, because it was really kind of funny how I found that. A kid down in Kentucky, he bought it, brand new, and he could never get it to say.
We get that a lot here.
Well, I ended up picking it up for $350 with the scope. I threw the scope aside and put it on a Vortex, and what it was, the scope was jacked.
Yeah.
Is why he couldn't.
That happens a lot. Loose bases and bad scopes. We see that frequently here.
So, and of course, you know, Legends of the Outdoors were sponsored by Vortex, so I get 50% off on that.
Oh, wow. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, well, hey, Jeremy, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Man.
Likewise. Appreciate you.
We're going to get this put up. It might take me till next week. I'm going to try to get some of it done. I got to go to Springfield and pick up my new toy.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be nice. A nice shooting blind.
That's why I was thinking about the suppressor.
Right.
I mean, that'd be cool shooting a deer out of a blind.
Right.
With a suppressor. But, yeah, I'm going to be, when I seen your thing on Facebook about them, I thought, man, I'm going to do
Yep.
But
There's still a
then-
lot of suppressors.
But then doing the $200 tax break, that's going to help a lot of people.
It is. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of sales there.
Because, you know, say you bought one for 6.5 Creedmoor, $1,000 and one of the quality ones, and you still had that 200 left, you know, you got $1,300-$1,400.
Yep. By the time you buy, you spend $1,000 on a suppressor, you're going to pay about $83-$84 in taxes, and then add another $200 to that, you're up to $1,300 for a suppressor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and I get $1,000 is high, and I get that's easy for me to say, you know, you should buy this from our side of the counter. But truthfully, it all comes down to your expectations. And if your expectations is, I don't mind spending a little more on a suppressor, but to have the best in weight reduction or noise reduction.
When I got $1,000 scope on both my Ruger Precision and my Tika T3X,
Yep.
you know, and the gum, the Tika I think was like $1,300, and the Ruger Precision was $1,500.
Right.
So, you know, what's another $1,000 on top to make that awesome game?
I get it. Again, it sounds easy to say, what's $1,000? But, you know, these guys, you're going out on a hunt, you've already spent $1,000 in airfare on and $1,000 or more on your tickets, and then to chintz out on what we hear the most is ammunition and suppressors. When guys are, you say, well, this is a really good suppressor for $1,000. This is a good suppressor for $750, and guys are going, oh no, that's outlandish. Well, it's $200, $300, $400 more, and you just talked about spending $6,000 on this hunt. And now you're afraid to spend a couple extra $100 on your suppressor, and you're the $60 on ammunition.
Well, it's like my buddy Gary that owns Legends of the Outdoors. He accidentally bought a second 20 gauge, thinking it was a 28 gauge, but it was a 28-inch barrel. And he didn't realize until after he got home and so I told him I was looking around because we were going on that pheasant hunt in South Dakota. I said, hey, I've been looking around online for, I said, Amanda talking to you and about getting a 28 or 20 gauge. He said, I got a brand new one in the box. You want it? He says, I'll sell it to you for $2,000. He said, that knocks off the taxes and the extra $50 on it.
Yeah.
I said, I'll take it. So, well, hey, buddy, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise, appreciate
I'm
you
going to
coming
get
by.
this on. And guys, this will be episode 6. I'm starting to picking up some viewers here and listeners on Spotify. And if you're listening on Spotify, jump over to my YouTube channel, Living Real Life Outdoors, and check out the video part of this where you can see the suppressors and everything and the commercial that Jeremy did. But if you're in the area here, Jeremy's really super good guy. I met him over a year ago, and he's been good to me and bunch of stuff. So, and it's been a pleasure, man.
Likewise, come back anytime. Glad to have you.
Come back and see us again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for listening and watching. Living real life outdoors. Hope you enjoyed today's show about hunting and fishing. For men and women of the outdoors, from your host. Until next time. Keep your guns oiled, your knives clean, tight lines and tall tines, y'all.